This is a quick video about how do you define the unit of measurement or the root HTML that impacts on the EM and the REM measurements. Now, if you're not familiar with using them, you've probably seen them with when you're doing your margins, your padding, your typography and stuff like that. I've got 4 examples here: 16 pixel, 1 EM, 1 REM and 1.4 viewport width. Why have I got the 1.4 there? Well, that's because I had to make it similar to what I've got above, okay? And what you should be able to tell is that 1 EM and 1 REM are equal to 16 pixel. That's because by default, browsers tend to go with 16 pixel. So if you ever put in 1 EM or 1 REM, it will be 16 pixels. So please bear that in mind. However, if you put in 1.5 EM, that is going to be 16 plus 8, because half of 16 is 8, so that's going to be 24. And sometimes that can mess up our heads when we're trying to go, right, what font do I want to go for? Especially if your client has gone, it must be 15 pixel for your body text, and you sort of go, right, okay, now I've got to do some decimal calculations going on here. Not that difficult, go get a calculator. But hey, let's just focus on this, okay? How can we sort this out and stop ourselves getting confused? So we've got all these 4 texts here. Pixels, well, they stay static, set in stone, right? EM and REM, however, viewport width, I should just mention, will adjust depending on how wide your screen is. So if I was to go to, say, a mobile like that, see how it is shrunk because it's 1.4. If I'd set that to be 100, it should be 100%, but I find it doesn't always follow that rule, which is why I tend not to focus too much on the viewport width. Anyway, back to the EM and REM. How can we define what the starting value is? Because it defaults to 16 pixel. If I go over here to the hamburger, and I'll explain why it's not a bad idea to use EM and REM, and I go to site settings and I go to typography, you must do this in the site settings typography. Now, when I click on typography, it says pixel, EM, REM, and VW. Don't be misled. Don't start. I mean, you can pop your value in here if you want and say whatever you want, but then it will always be hooked back to the original 16 pixel by default. So what you want to do is go over to pixel, and if I go and type in a different number like, say, 30, can you see what's happened to the EM? It has now adopted the 30. Click on that text again, go to typography. This time, rather than having EM1, I'm going to type EM2. That is now 2 times 30. If I put in, if I was to go in, say, and put in a 1.5, that will be 45, because it's 1.5 times 30. So 30 plus the half bit, which is 15, goes to 45. Does that make sense? So I am now able to define things a little bit better. And if you're using EM now for your margin, your padding, and anything like that, you are now going to have a better understanding. Because what you could now do, literally, is go into your setting, like I just did, and set that body text typography to be 10 pixel. Now your EM will be 1 EM is 10, 1.5 EM is 15, 2 EM is 20. Can you understand? It makes it a little bit more easier to apply. But what if I don't just want to touch the EM, I want to touch the REM? Well, the root HTML here has not actually changed. That is also still defaulting to 16. So let me show you what you would do for that. Let's pop this back to be 1. Let's go over to our site settings again. Let's go back over to our typography. Now, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to just delete that. When you delete it, everything defaults back to 16 pixel for 99% of browsers in the world, okay? Because it is browser driven. So everything now is 16 pixel for the 1 EM and REM. You don't have to put 16 in it. It already does it. If I now just hit update, go back over here and I go to custom CSS. You can put this anywhere in your CSS in your website, by the way. You don't have to do it here. I just do it here because it's easy to apply, because it's all within your global settings. If I go here and I now paste in this bit of code, what this will do is start to define what is the root HTML for mobile size, which is this one here. So the maximum width up to 600 pixel. And after that, everything else is also still 16 pixel. And you're probably going to go, well, you haven't really changed anything, have you? Well, no, stay with me on this. Let us now change this. Well, watch what happens when I do that. Everything just disappears because the sizes all over the place have gone a bit funny now. Let me change this to be 30. Pixel and the 1.4 viewport width, well, they've not changed unless you change the width of your page. But the EM and REM is now 30 pixel. Now, the mobile is still 16. Now, I'm just going to change this actually to be 20, like that. Now at the moment, again, nothing has changed because we're still on the desktop view. Now watch what happens when I go to mobile. That is 16, that is now 20. The 1.4 viewport width, as I've mentioned, look, it's gone and resized, and I don't really care for that. If I go back to desktop, can you see what's happened here? So I'm just going to pop this back to be, I'm going to pop the mobile one to be 10 for now. I'm going to leave the desktop one to be 30. And let's say I go to my REM one now, go to style and typography, so I'm on the third text there. If I set this to be 2 REM, it will be 60. If I go for 1.5, it is now 45. You can change your root HTML to now be 10 pixel to make it easier to understand. If you do apply this to an existing website, bear in mind that you're going to have to go through and adjust your website on a brand new website. This is not a bad thing to do as a default. Hey, I'm Imran, Web Squadron. The code will be in the description. Like, subscribe, share, and follow. I'll see you.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat.